Hi, as you know, I am Kaylin, and today we're going to be covering the daily and payroll rostering. Now, sometimes, depending on your shifts, you might have it that you have multiple start and end times that these employees can work. They've perhaps got a fixed pattern that they would work. You know, the one day they would work 8 till 5, the next day it's a 10 till 8 shifts for argument's sake, and you need to be able to enter that pattern that they would be working. And that is basically called daily rostering. You also have payroll rostering, which then they would, for argument's sake, work a 8 till 5 shift for an entire week or a month. And then the next month, they would change over to, let's say, the 10 to 8 shift, and they would work that for a while. That would be your payroll rostering, or you're basically going to then enter the payroll shifts that they're going to be working on for each employee. So if you need to go to your daily rostering, which is what we're going to start off, you can go to your Blue Man, your Browse Employee screen, and here you would obviously then see all your employees. You can highlight the employee that you need to add their shift pattern for, and on the left-hand side you'll see there's daily rostering. If you click on that, you can either view this in a list view or else in a calendar view, whichever you prefer. Calendar view is obviously always nice. You can quickly and easily see, according to the color coding, what shift he would you have rostered him on, etc., etc. Now, obviously, doing this in the Browse Employee screen, you would be doing it per employee. You can also do it for all the employees, where you can take 1 month and go and roster them, you know, for each day if you've got their pattern, and also you can you know, import that from an Excel spreadsheet, provided that the layout is as needed to import that, etc. So I'm going to show you. So the calendar view is the easiest. Let's say we're working with October here, and I want this employee to work Tuesday and Wednesday. He's going to be working the 8 till 5 shift in my case here, and let's say Thursday and Friday he's going to be working the 8 till 3 shift. Easy enough. You can just right click on that day, and you can either just go and select that shift that you want them to be on, or you can add that. Obviously, I want this employee to work the 8 till 5 shift for those 2 days, so I'm going to right click again on Wednesday and add the 8 till 5 shift. And the same thing with Thursday, except now I'm going to choose the 8 till 3 shift, and Friday is the 8 till 3 shift. Now, obviously, like I said before, depending on your shift setup, you might have these options available. Also, depending on how your software has been configured in terms of whether you are using rostering or not, because you need the rostering module enabled for you to have these features available. You can obviously then go and have all these shifts available, or else only, let's say you've got a specific shift for Monday and you only want those shifts available in this list. That is obviously done in the configuration in the back end, if I can say that, on how you would see that information. Obviously, it depends on how regular this happens, you know, that this employee would work a different shift. Let's say, for argument's sake, this employee generally only works an 8 till 5 shift, and, you know, once in a blue moon he might work the 8 till 3 shift. You don't necessarily need rostering to do that. Then you can obviously just do a manual override for that day then to calculate that hours. This is more used when, especially when you don't have a fixed pattern either, that the guy works, let's say, 3 days morning, 3 days night, 3 days off. If you've got that, you can then have a what they call a rolling shift setup, where it'll actually then start that little pattern and that cycle over again. So obviously you've done your rostering for the daily. That'll obviously then get used to calculate the hours according to what has been set up in those shifts there. If we go back to the list view, we can just check. I've gone and added that for the first. We will see then all those days that have been added. Now, depending also on once again your shifts, it will pick up a default shift, which is always the main shift on that. You know, depending on your setup, might be that the day off is the default shift that it will pick up. But you can obviously go and say this employee is going to specifically work this day, this shift on this day, and program him accordingly. Once you've actually rostered those days, obviously then your hours, like I said, will be calculated according to those shifts that you have put that employee on then. You can do the daily rostering in the future, if I can call it that. Let's say next week you know that this, you know what shift pattern this employee is going to work. You can obviously go and program that into the system, and as he works next week, it'll go according to that. Now, it is always best to, if you do have that pattern, put it in for next week, and you know that that's done, you know, and it'll calculate the hours accordingly. If you go and add a daily shift afterwards, you know, he's actually worked those hours already, like let's say for last week, you might just want to do a bulk process again in order for it to make sure that it has actually taken those changes into effect. So that's then your daily rostering. You can obviously, if you go into query edit, you can also go and edit that there. And this would obviously then you can go and click, either you've got your calendar view or you've got your list again. The only difference obviously in this screen is that you are seeing everybody here. You're not working with one specific person. You'll see in this screen though, it shows you the default shift that has been picked up, and you can obviously go and right click it and change it to whichever shift that may be that you want them on. You can also put in a custom time as well to specify when this, let's say this guy generally works the 8 till 5 again, and you want to just quickly, you don't have specifically a 8 till let's say 3:30 shift. You can then just go and put in a custom time 8 till 3:30 for that day there. Okay, and this screen, like I say, you can obviously go and view for a certain amount of days. You can also send this information to the printer to see you know, that you've got that whole rostering of who works when and where and how that you can put in there. Like I say, only difference here is you seeing everybody, not just one guy. So that's your daily rostering then. The other thing is obviously your payroll rostering that you can do. Now that can generally, there's also two ways that that can get done. You can either then go into that employee, once again if you're working with one employee, the specific employee that you want to go and do that, and you can click on change. And if you look at their shifts, just like you would normally add a payroll shift to a employee, you can also go and roster them according to the shift. Like I said, if for argument's sake this employee is working you know, for a whole month or whatever, is working the 8 till 5 shift, and now I want to go and add that, let's say from the 1st of October, or let's choose a different one, let's say from the 14th of October, he's going to be working the 8 till 1 shifts for argument's sake. Now obviously you'll see there isn't a 8 till 3 shift here, because this obviously picks up the payroll, different payroll shifts that you've got. So also what you need to keep in mind is, let's say you've got a admin shift and you've got a factory shift and a workshop shift. Obviously, if you're going to take this employee and put them on the admin shift, you're going to roster them on the admin shift for argument's sake. All the daily rules that apply to that admin shift is now going to be applied to this employee. So it's important that you remember this is not only programming him for one day necessarily, you know, on an 8 till 1 shift. That you would definitely be doing on a daily basis then in your daily rostering. This is actually putting him on a brand new shift. In actual fact, if I can try and explain it like that. So let's say we're going to put him on the 8 till 1 shift, and you can also specify he's only going to be on that shift for this week. What will happen then is he'll be on the shift till the 20th, and it'll fall back to whatever his shift was before you've rostered this. So we can just click on OK, and those shifts will be added there. You'll see that immediately now I've said till the 20th he's going to be on this shift, so it has added another one to say that from the 21st he's going to be back on the 8 till 5 shift. So that's your payroll rostering on an employee level, so that's per employee that you would go and do that. You can also then, if we go to query or edit and we go to payroll shift rostering, you're going to be doing basically the same thing. Only difference here is you're going to be selecting the employee, so you can go and view, go and add for anybody here their payroll rostering. You can also obviously go and view it then, oops, let me just close that, view it in calendar form, where you can see for the month of October this employee is working on that shift till that date. And you can also go and add, either right click and add, or you can click on add here, and it'll bring up that same screen where you can specify which shift he's going to be on from which date until which date. Okay, and as said before, if you always just want to make sure if you've made any changes in the system, you can always do a bulk process before your payroll just to make sure that it has taken effect, and all these shifts that you have been changing and rostering the guys on, especially when you're doing backdated shift rostering, then definitely you want to just do a bulk process to make sure that all those changes have been taken into effect. And that is basically payroll rostering, or rostering in other words. Either do it on a daily basis or on a payroll basis, whether that weekly or monthly. Remember that your daily rostering is actually going between different shifts. If I can perhaps just, I'm going to go to the configuration module just to give you a slightly better idea. Let me just quickly move that over there. If you look at your daily shift setup, this will be all the different types of days that shifts that you've got available on a daily basis. There you'll see is our 8 till 3 shift again, which we didn't have in the payroll shift rostering. So you'll see this one has all the rules for each day, and that's the ones that you see available when doing daily rostering. If you go to your payroll shifts, you'll see that this shift, for argument's sake, includes all those specific day shifts that it uses. Now let's say you're going to change him from that till the 1 shift. You'll see that it obviously changes the daily shifts as well according to whatever those shifts have been set up there. If for argument's sake I change him to the night shift, it'll completely change all his daily shifts. So this will be what it'll use to calculate his hours. So just remember the difference between the two, that you're either changing them just on one day, which you're changing specific rules for that day, or you're changing the entire pay period's rules if you're doing payroll rostering. And that's rostering for you. Pretty simple, easy, not much to it. It's easy enough and quite nice to, in the calendar view especially, to quickly do some rostering. And like I say, it depends on how often this happens, whether it's a ongoing thing that these employees will be working different shifts. You might have it, like I say, that this guy only works 2-3 days. He works even a month, and you don't necessarily need rostering to be set up. You can just do a manual override for that days there. I hope you've at least learned something and that you will join me next time. Goodbye.